Hello everyone, welcome to my first Skript tutorial. Today we'll be making a script where whenever a player kills another player, that they will get a random enchant on their current held tool. So, we will start with the basics. Any script file ends in .sk. I will be using an IDE called Visual Studio Code to create my files. Then I will copy the text and put that in the files of a server I will be hosting on Minehut. That will be our test server for today. So let's make a new file. Make a text file. I have Skript installed, and as for the IDE itself, and we will save by file, save, and let's call it kill enchant.sk. So, what is vital to every scripter is the document. The documentation helps with everything. It shows everything that you need from A to Z, every event, effects, anything of every add-on. Skript has a lot of add-ons. A few that I would recommend are SKB and maybe SKRayfall if you are used to their GUIs. But we'll get to that in another video. Anyways, let's start with what we want the script to do. We need an event, what's called an event. So something that gets triggered. Every code basically comes to input, then we will process the code, then we will generate output. So we will start with the input, an event. Our event will be whenever a player kills another player, do this. Then what we will do is give the player who killed the other player a random enchantment on their tool. We will get to this later. Let's start with the event first. Whenever a player kills another player, it's called a death event because the player dies to the attacker. So let's look for that in the documentation. Death. Here, death of player. That's not what we are looking for here. On death, an event. We are looking for an event. Here we can see event values, damage cause, and entity data. So we can use that. We can even view the examples. On death of player. I think that's exactly what we are looking for. So let's type that in our code. On death of player. We don't want an on death of an animal, like a pig or another entity. We want a player. Whenever these are used, that means that you need to indent, which makes you use a tab. That shows every code that is in here belongs to this event, and the code that will be from here will not belong to this event anymore. So this can be, you can do this also with 4 spaces, but I prefer to use tabs because those are more convenient. So on death of player. Now we need to check if the attacker is a player, because of course if the player dies to a creeper, we don't want the creeper to get the random enchantment. So we can add an event, what's called, a condition. If attacker is a player, and then again you see the double point, so we indent again. In Skript, you can do this handy thing where we don't need to do this if there's only one event, but we can just remove this so the code doesn't need to be indented. So we do on death of player, then if the player dies to anything, this code will be executed, and only if the attacker is a player, this code will be executed. So give the player who killed the other player a random enchantment on their tool. I will be learning you how to debug. So let's see if this works first. So let's test our code. If this code should work, we need to know that it's triggered. We do this in the form of output, because as you see, that is what we are missing. A standard way of doing this is by sending the player a chat message. So let's check how we do this. We head over to the documentation and look up send or message, something like that. Let's look for an effect. Here, message or send objects to command senders. So basically, someone who can receive the message. See, we have here examples, send this to that. So let's use that in our code. Let's send, with the nice color, you killed another player. To who do we want to send it? Let's add to player. This may not work, so we can check that later on. This is an effect, meaning that it's output. We can put our code in the server by selecting everything, like this, or with Ctrl A, then Ctrl C to copy it. We head over to our server, go to File Manager, Plugins, Script, Scripts. We make a new file, and let's call it ke for killenchant.sk. We create it, we go to it, and do Ctrl V to paste our code. Let's save our code, head over in-game, and let's do says sk reload, and we see ke. We do this to let Skript know to reload the script and make it work. Ooh, we have an error. Let's check. At line 10, use attacker and or victim in damage or death events. We indeed did use a death event. So what got wrong here? If we use player, there's a problem because Skript does not know if we either mean the attacker or the victim, which both can be a player. So let's specify this. We head over and we see you killed another player. This is probably meant for the attacker. So if we put that in, let's see if this works. Save it. Reload it. And hey, it works. So let's check this by killing our alt account with the weapon. You see the message? You killed another player. This is amazing. Also notice how the message is triggered before the chat message of that we killed the alt account. This lets us know that the code we put in, the event, gets triggered before the server has processed the death. This means we can cancel the event always. This will be handy for later. Anyways, imagine we want to know who the victim or the attacker was. Who it was. So, if we want to check who it was, we head over to the code, and we want to put the attacker in this message somehow, or the victim. But if we want to put attacker like this, it will only send the word attacker, which is a problem. We want to send who the attacker is and not the word itself. We can let Skript know this with percentage signs. So we add percentage here and percentage here. Now, Skript knows we don't mean the word attacker, but who the attacker really is. So let's, instead of this message, send the attacker, killed, and then the victim. This would work. But we only send this to attacker, so instead of this, let's make it broadcast, so everyone knows. We can put the code in again with Ctrl A, Ctrl C, and Ctrl V again. Save the code and reload it. Let's respawn our alt account. And let's kill them again. See? Incredible killed Incredi alt. So we know our code is working. This is amazing. So, we wanted to add an enchantment to our tool every time we did this. How to softcode or hardcode this is more complicated, and I will get to that in another video. For now, let's just look up in the docs how to do this. Let's for now make it simple by adding something like sharpness to the enchants of the tool. So we're going to add, let's look for it first in the documentation, enchant. Enchantment level, not an effect. Aha, enchant item types with enchantment types. Maybe an example? Enchant the player's tool with sharpness 5. That is exactly what we are looking for. So let's copy that. and paste that right in here. Remember, we don't want player, we want attacker's tool. Let's add effect, output again, and let's test our code. I think the code is working because we have no errors, so let's respawn our alt account and let's kill him. This is a bit overpowered sword, so we will grab a more underpowered sword. Hey, look what happened. It suddenly got enchanted with sharpness 5. When we killed him. This is amazing, and we don't see the chat message anymore because we removed that line. So, that was it for today. Next time we will get onto variables and soft coding and hard coding. See you then.